Hello, this is Transfer Talk. Benjamin Sesko looks to have chosen Manchester United over Newcastle United. We've got the latest on his future this hour. If Sesko moves to Old Trafford, what does that mean for the future of Rasmus Højlund? We're live to Manchester as well. We're also live to Brazil to get the transfer update on Rodrigo's future. Will the Real Madrid winger be playing in the Premier League come the end of the window? And Aston Villa have been fairly quiet in the window so far, but it's about to change with a new striker on the verge of joining. We'll tell you who it is. A very good afternoon to everyone at home and also to our reporter Michael Bridge as well. Now, before we get to Benjamin Sesko, we should tell you that there are reports in The Athletic from David Ornstein in the last few minutes. He's reporting that Al Hilal have reached an agreement in principle with Liverpool to sign Darwin Nunez. Now we're hearing, he is reporting it's 53 million euros plus add-ons, and that agreement has been done verbally. Right, we are chasing that right now, and of course we will update you as and when we have more information. Right, let's get to Benjamin Sesko. As we said, this one really has gathered pace over the last 48 hours or so. Daniel Kahn is waiting to speak to us in Manchester. Right, Dan, it does look like Sesko is heading your way.
It does indeed, Tom, and what a 24 hours it's been from where Newcastle United upped their offer to around £70 million, just under that. The question was, when would Manchester United enter the race formally? And we've consistently reported that despite Newcastle's huge interest in the striker, Sesko's preference has always been a move to Old Trafford, and it seems United felt the same because they then entered the race initially with a bid of £65 million initial, with some add-ons attached to that. But our colleagues in Sky Germany have reported since this morning that United have upped that offer closer to that £70 million mark, and Manchester United I should say, are now in advanced talks with RB Leipzig over finalising a move for Benjamin Sesko. And I mean, you have to really admire United's strategy in this negotiation. If they are able to get the deal over the line, they clearly had belief that Sesko wanted the move to Old Trafford, and it seems that they could be getting their third major signing of the window. Despite not having any European football in the upcoming season, it looks like they are getting closer to edging another forward signing over the line.
It does sound like a fairly obvious question when it's a player as good as Benjamin Sesko, but is this exactly the type of player that Manchester United need?
Look, I think you have to start off by saying with Sesko that you are still buying a 22-year-old who still has a ceiling to reach, Tom. But what I think you can consider is this is a striker that Manchester United have known about and been scouting since he was 16 years old and signed for Red Bull Salzburg, and they've been aware of him ever since. And although he maybe didn't feel that when he was younger a move to the Premier League would be right, it feels like now at 22 years old, 21 goals scored in all competitions last year, that now seems the right time to make that step up to one of the best leagues in the world, of course. And I think for what Manchester United could be getting in him is a striker who offers not just goals of all sorts of variety, left foot, right foot, in the box, out of the box, also very good aerially. But what I was very impressed about at Leipzig last year was just his set-up play, especially in the box. When you have the likes of Brian Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha, Ahmad as well, who can all play off of him potentially, I think that attack looks much more potent in that sense. But what we'll have to consider is what it means for the likes of Rasmus Højlund and his future as well.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to ask. If Sesko does come in, which looks more and more likely, where does that leave Højlund?
Yeah, I mean, Manchester United spent £72 million on Højlund just a few years ago, Tom, 20 years old. And although we understand United may consider appropriate offers for Højlund, Højlund has come out in pre-season, been adamant he wants to fight for his place. The only thing I would say about Højlund is that, you know, when you consider the team he came into just a few years ago when he made his debut against Brighton, it was a very, very different team that didn't have any sort of the attacking options United now have at their disposal. And you also consider that this United side in pre-season, they have looked so much more comfortable in Amorim's system. The likes of Patrick Dorgu, Lenny Yoro, who all look like they've taken leaps in this pre-season. I think the same has to be considered for Højlund in this system, especially now supported by Mbeumo, Ahmad and Cunha as well. So perhaps he needs a bit more time in this system. And you think for Amorim to have two strikers at 22 years old that he can really help mould into his system isn't necessarily a bad thing. But as you have to consider, they won't have as many games without European football. So how does he keep two strikers happy? I feel like there'll be enough game time between the two to share if they want to. But we'll have to see what United do, because before this deadline closes, it really will be on sales now going into the final few weeks, in terms of the likes of Alejandro Garnacho, Anthony, Tyrell Malacia, all looking to get off the books at United. They aren't training as part of the main squad at the moment, so still a bit of business for the likes of Jason Wilcox, Christopher Val to get through with their recruitment team. But for now, it looks like United are getting another signing over the line in Sesko, and just showing perhaps the attraction power that they still maintain despite where they finished last season and despite not having Champions League football.
Daniel, busy summer for Manchester United and it's still going on. Thank you. So that's Manchester United. What about Newcastle United? Keith Downey's at the club's training ground for us. Right, Keith, good afternoon to you. What is the feeling at the club, as at the moment it looks like they could miss out on another target?
Yeah, look, I think there's a mixture of disappointment and also probably just feeling in the dark a little bit over this. I think the fear from Newcastle at the start of the week was that they might get strung along in this, with Manchester United on Monday still having yet to make a formal bid for Benjamin Sesko. Of course, we told you on Saturday that Newcastle had made the opening offer of 65 plus 5, and then of course they upped that offer on Monday to 80 million euros plus add-ons, which of course is a club record for Newcastle. It feels like they've given everything they can, and they've really thrown the kitchen sink at it. But you know, just the noises you're hearing from inside, and one source that has been telling us or maintaining to us for days now that Manchester United is Benjamin Sesko's favoured destination. I don't think it was that he is or was against Newcastle United. I think he was impressed with the plan and the project that was laid out by Eddie Howe last week when he spoke to Sesko and his representatives. But I think just that won the pool of Manchester United, an institution of a football club, and as we see, as Dan mentioned and alluded to there already, Newcastle have lost out on a couple of players to Manchester United, the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo already this summer, so they still have that pool. I would suggest he's going to be earning more money at Manchester United over Newcastle as well. But as it stands, look, Newcastle haven't been told it's off. Their offer was pretty much accepted by Leipzig. It matches their valuation of the player, and although Manchester United are trying to close that gap between their offer and Newcastle, they've not quite got there yet. It feels like the decision rests with the player here, and that agreement that the player has with Leipzig to join a club if an offer comes in that suits Leipzig, and it feels as though Manchester United will probably get there. And like you say, Tom, it's just another one that looks to have been missed out by Newcastle this summer, and it's been a very bruising couple of months for those involved here at Tyneside.
I think everybody assumed, maybe correctly, maybe not, that Sesko coming in would mean Isach going out. Whether Sesko's coming in or not, what is the latest on Isach?
Yeah, look, Newcastle do not want Alexander Isak to leave. Well, they don't want him to leave at all, but he's obviously agitating to leave, and they don't want to allow him to leave without a ready-made replacement. They obviously saw Benjamin Sesko as that man, and that's why they accelerated talks for him over the weekend. Had there been no issue with Alexander Isak, I wouldn't have foreseen Newcastle moving for Sesko. I think it's been a reaction to what we've seen from Isak, of course, first failing to travel in the club's pre-season tour of Asia, and then informing the club that he wanted to explore a move away from Newcastle United. So they've made that move off the back of that. So yeah, you're right, it does have ramifications to Alexander Isak, and of course he was over in Spain training on his own alongside his own team for just over a week. He returned to the northeast on Saturday, then trained on Monday on his own at the training ground here, and then again yesterday as well, because the players and Eddie Howe had yet to return. They arrived early hours of Monday morning, so they had Monday and yesterday off. They're set to return later on today. So Isach, we're expecting at the training ground at some point today. So look, it's going to make things difficult for Isach in terms of leaving now. Had Newcastle managed to get Sesko over the line, I think that in turn would have reignited the talks with Liverpool, and if Newcastle had been able to agree a fee with Liverpool, I think Isach probably would have gone. But with Sesko looking like he's heading to Manchester United, unless Newcastle come up with something else, I can foresee a situation where Alexander Isak starts the season, ends the transfer window in a black and white jersey.
Keith, if you don't mind just staying there for a couple of minutes, just we've got some big breaking news, but we do want to come back to you there for more on Newcastle. But that breaking news is that we can now confirm that story that we were bringing you reported elsewhere a few minutes ago, is that Liverpool have reached an agreement with Al Hilal for the sale of Darwin Nunez. So big news this as well. It's understood that the Saudi Pro League club are set to pay a fixed fee of £46.2 million, plus add-ons that could take the deal to £56.6 million. And Sky in Italy are reporting that Al Hilal have accepted Nunez's wage demand. So, I mean, it looks like this one is pretty much done, really. AC Milan were interested. They did make an approach, but were always unlikely to ever match these figures. So, Liverpool's Darwin Nunez looks like he's off to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia for a fee that could rise to £56.6 million. Me and Michael will be talking about that in a moment, but I've asked Keith to stay where he is. Apologies for that, Keith. Back to Newcastle, you've talked about Sesko, you've talked about Isak, but apparently there's an event going on at the training ground today.
Yeah, but before we get to that, Tom, I think it's important to say what you mentioned there, that breaking news regarding Darwin Nunez, that also could have ramifications for Alexander Isak and Newcastle, because obviously that's Liverpool, another striker short, and look, they were looking for one anyway, which is why they made that bid on Friday for Alexander Isak of £110 million plus add-ons, which of course was flatly rejected by Newcastle. But that just adds a little bit more intrigue to the Isak situation, because there's another spot up for grabs in that Liverpool attack with Nunez, by the sounds of it, about to leave. So that will be interesting to see what happens there, and whether Liverpool still come back in, despite the fact Newcastle have yet to essentially replace or bring in a replacement for Isak. So it'll be really intriguing to see whether Newcastle look elsewhere on the back of Benjamin Sesko and what happens there. And although it's not over the line yet with Manchester United, it's looking like it's heading in that direction. Now, you asked me about what's going on at the training ground today. I said to you earlier that Eddie Howe and the players are back in for the first day since their pre-season tour of South Korea and Singapore. So they're in today for training this morning, and the players' families and children are invited in this afternoon. It's something that Eddie Howe has decided to have, foster the togetherness that they already have within the squad here. Look, this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. It's something they do quite often. They do it most summers with family get-togethers, barbecues. They have it a couple of times throughout the year, but Eddie Howe has decided today is a good day to have that, probably on the back of what we've seen. There's been a lot of upheaval behind the scenes, and he just wants everyone to be together. So once the players finish training, I can just hear them over my shoulder there, the noise of the players training. Once they've finished, they'll come in. Families will be invited in for lunch, activities for the children, and probably try and just bring everyone together, show that togetherness that's obviously held Newcastle so strong over the last couple of years, in the face of what we've seen over the last few weeks. Because as I touched on earlier, it has been a very bruising summer for them so far, behind the scenes. But what is worth pointing out is that, look, they're still in the market. There's still a number of weeks left in the transfer market, and Newcastle, we must remember, still have money to spend.
Yeah, there is still time. You're absolutely right. Keith, thank you. Just a reminder of that breaking news that Liverpool have reached an agreement with Al Hilal for Darwin Nunez. It's understood that they will pay £46.2 million plus add-ons that could take the deal to £56.6 million. And Sky in Italy are saying that Al Hilal have accepted Nunez's wage demands. AC Milan, we told you, were interested, but they were always unlikely to match those figures. Out in Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal, they can match those figures. So Michael Bridge has been waiting patiently to talk to us about Sesko and Isak, but we're going to talk about another striker instead, Michael, because Darwin Nunez, has this come as a surprise? We knew he was available, but we thought this might take a bit longer, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is really intriguing now, and you can see Keith there as well, how interesting this is now in terms of Isaac going forward. But we have to reiterate, and as Keith says, day after day after day, Newcastle are not selling Alexander Isak until they have a replacement in the door. With Benjamin Sesko now looked to be on his way to Manchester United, that's not going to be happening any time soon. Is this going to rumble on and on? And now you look at Liverpool now, they've had, what summer they've had so far, the money they've spent. But of course, we've got Luis Diaz going to Bayern Munich, and now their number 9, Darwin Nunez, leaving. Really, really intriguing.
Yeah, it is. OK, we'll have more on that to come, no doubt, here on Transfer Talk, because it is a huge story. Right, but on the way next, we've got reaction from South American football expert Tim Vickery. That and much more after the break. just joining us, the big transfer news involving Darwin Nunez. Liverpool have reached an agreement with Al Hilal, the Saudi Pro League club, are set to pay a fixed fee of £46.2 million plus add-ons that could take the deal to £56.6 million. Just another update on that. It's all happening today. We do understand that Liverpool are yet to be informed that Nunez has accepted the move. So they don't know yet that Nunez has given the green light to make that move. But remember that the fee has been agreed, and we understand that Nunez has agreed the personal terms. Understand that Nunez as well. OK, but we'll keep you updated with all. Time across to Rio de Janeiro, where we can speak to our South American football expert, Tim Vickery. Tim, always good to see you. Let's start with that breaking news with Liverpool and Darwin Nunez and Al Hilal. What do you make of that? Did you expect it to come so soon?
Well, the interesting thing for me is that you've just confirmed that so far there's been no agreement from the player himself. I would be very, very sorry to lose him. I think he's a player who always gives you something. And I'm still hoping that Darwin can evolve this move in another direction. I thought I had this one all sorted out on Friday. I was in the studio on Friday when the news came in of Liverpool making that big bid for Isach. And I thought, well, why not? Isaac moves in one direction, Nunez plus cash in the other direction. Everyone wins. And I really think that the Newcastle fans would absolutely love him. I think they would really, really take to him. So I'm still hoping against hope that could happen, because I would be very, very sorry to see this player leave the Premier League.
Yeah, Tim, hi, it's Michael here. Not everyone, not all Liverpool fans have taken to Darwin Nunez. How's he regarded in South America?
Well, he's Uruguay's cutting edge, and his record for Uruguay is very good indeed. And he's an optimist of the goal, isn't he? He's always trying. He's always putting himself around. He's always running into the channels. So I think, although there are some Liverpool fans who maybe have a resistance to him, there are many who really appreciate his efforts. And I'm sure he'd be a big hit with the Newcastle fans, who kind of love that type of player. In this year, going into the World Cup, it's an important move to make. And he may come to the conclusion that going to Saudi will leave him fresher for the World Cup. But as I say, I think he would be a loss to the Premier League.
So that's Darwin Nunez. Let's move on, because West Ham and John Victor, he looks like he is heading to London. What can the West Ham fans expect from him?
Well, the point here is that this is two former Botafogo goalkeepers going to the Premier League, with Lucas Perry joining Leeds through Lyon, and now John. He's only known as John over here. You seem to have added a Victor there to give him the second names. John, well down the road to joining West Ham. So 2 points to make. Number one is the excellence of Botafogo's scouting system, who they pick up these players on the down when they're reserves, as Lucas Perry was, or John was on loan in the Spanish second division with Valladolid. When they brought him back last year, he was an essential part of the team that won the Brazilian title and the South American title, the Copa Libertadores, and he had an excellent tournament recently in the Club World Cup. And like so many, and Brazil is really becoming a mass producer of goalkeepers. And John is right in the mould of so many goalkeepers that Brazil is coming up with. Tall, athletic, lithe. Very, very impressive, I think. Very impressive. I know there's a reel going round of his mistakes. This is cruel. You could do that with the greatest goalkeeper who's ever played the game. You can find Lev Yashin conceded a goal straight from a corner, for crying out loud. But John has given wonderful service for over a year for Botafogo. He's been really, really dependable. The only thing I think you would say at this stage is that I don't think he has the language. So Lucas Perry, who spent a year on loan at Crystal Palace, I think would be a little bit ahead on that one, because defending, of course, is a collective task, and it is vital that the goalkeeper is able to communicate with his defensive unit. So I think John would need some getting up to speed with that. But in terms of his goalkeeping abilities, I don't think he has anything to fear in the Premier League, and I think he can give West Ham equally good service as he gave to Botafogo.
And Botafogo getting their replacement in Bournemouth's Neto. Will they be pleased with that business?
Yeah, I think they will. Neto, a goalkeeper of vast experience. He's at the veteran stage now, but he's been from Barcelona to Bournemouth and now to Botafogo. So he's going around all the Bs. Just missed out on Brentford there, I suppose. So he's a keeper of vast experience, and he's already on his way to Rio. So that really makes it clear that the deal there with John is almost done and dusted. The Botafogo fans have turned against John a little bit. That's not because they don't rate him; it's because they don't want to lose him. I think they respect the contribution that he's made, and they're very sad that he's going. So that one seems now well down the line. John to West Ham, Neto coming back to go between the sticks for Botafogo.
Yes, sound of a good player, I suppose, if that happens. Real Madrid's Rodrigo, he's been tentatively linked with several Premier League clubs, but not really taken that seriously over here in the wider media. Do you see that one happening in the future?
Well, let's watch this space over the next couple of weeks, because this could be interesting. And Rodrigo has the Real Madrid dilemma, doesn't he? That it's hard for players to be top dog there. And he's so talented. He's almost absurdly talented. But someone has to do the hard yards. And, Jude Bellingham said last year that he considered Rodrigo the most talented of all of them and the one who has to sacrifice himself most for the side. Now, where does Xabi Alonso see Rodrigo in his plans? Because he can play anywhere across the front line. Didn't use him very much in the Club World Cup. And when he did, wide right. Now, we know that Rodrigo doesn't really want to play wide right. He would far prefer a free role. Now, what we understand is that he is very keen on staying at Real Madrid and proving to Xabi Alonso that he can be a key part of that side. Over the next 2 weeks, if that doesn't happen, then he may start looking around. And what an asset he would be. It's almost like one of those mafia films when you need to break away and start your own family, because he is so good. I think it's a waste to have him as a kind of bit part player filling in spaces or playing wide on the right. You want him roaming free, dropping his little bombs all around the opposing goal. So I think the key thing here is, does Rodrigo think that he has an important place in Xabi Alonso's team? If not, I wonder if we'll see progress towards the end of this month.
Don Vickery, one more question, very quick question before you go. I want to get your view. I'm hearing potentially Christian Romero is going to be the new Spurs captain when Son's departure to LAFC is announced. I know you watch a lot of Christian Romero for Argentina. Is that the right choice to be the next Spurs captain, do you think?
Yes, well, he's a World Cup winner, isn't he? And it's also a way of cementing him in with his importance to the team. Yes, he's a winner. He's a leader. He plays right up to the line, and sometimes goes the other side. And maybe having captaincy responsibilities just calms down some of those rough edges, but also it makes him very, very aware of his importance to the project. So yes, I think in the very place where all those years ago Ozzy Ardiles landed from Argentina, I think it's entirely appropriate that Argentine's World Cup winner is the new captain.
Perfect.
Tim, great to speak to you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Speak soon.
Just go back to Liverpool now, Michael, because it could be all changed. We've just had that Darwin Nunez news, of course, going to Al Hilal. But developments overnight involving Harvey Elliot as well. What's going on with him?
Yeah, really interesting one, this, because he had a great few years at Liverpool after his move from Fulham. But we know that Leipzig have made contact with Liverpool over a potential move. Now, we're told these are early stages, as they're looking for a replacement for potentially for Xavi Simons. But this is an interesting one for me, that Leipzig have been allowed to speak to Harvey Elliot as they look to sell the project to him. But look, Harvey Elliot, won the league with Liverpool. He loves being there, won the under-21s with England. And he's talking to the club's in-house channel on tour. He said, if I had it my way, I'd be here for the rest of my career. I love everything about this club. But at the same time, I need to be selfish with myself and see what's best for me. He's got big ambitions, wants to get in the World Cup squad, and he talks here at length about new players coming in and whether that blocks a path for him. So he's been saying it himself. One to keep an eye on, absolutely.
In terms of, let's talk about his England chances. You talked about the under-21s. He is one of many players who does have a chance of being in the World Cup. next summer. So I suppose this could well be the most important year of his career in terms of getting in that England squad and staying there.
Absolutely, it's a huge move, isn't it? But you do wonder if these talks are underway, whether any Premier League clubs will keep an eye on this, because he's such a great player. So, interesting one, but interesting that he'd be speaking to Leipzig. Will he like the sound of the project? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, versatile player as well. Right, if you're just joining us, the big transfer news this hour. Darwin Nunez is heading to Al Hilal. An agreement is in place. It's understood wages have been agreed as well. More on that to come. Plus, we'll have news from the Championship. Who has won the race to sign Chuba Akon? Liverpool's Darwin Nunez. Wages have been agreed according to Sky in Italy. However, it's understood that Liverpool are yet to be informed that Nunez has given the green light to the move. Now, the other big story of the day involves Benjamin Sesko and the potential ramifications for Alexander Isak. Earlier, Dan Gosling joined us on Good Morning Transfers and gave us his view on the situation.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, there's a lot of people in Isak's ear for sure. His head has definitely been turned. I mean, Liverpool, massive club. But like I say, I think there's definitely the player will know if Newcastle don't get a replacement, he's not going anywhere. And as soon as the season starts, he's going to have to get his head back in the game And I'm sure he will. That's just how players are. They want to compete, they want to play, and ultimately he has to play football. He's got 3 years left of his contract. Newcastle under no real pressure to sell him. I think once the season starts and the window closes, then he'll be fully back invested with Newcastle United.
We're going to go to the Championship now, and Birmingham have big ambitions after being promoted from League One. Kirsty Edwards is at their training ground for us. Good afternoon, Kirsty. Right, what is the latest on Birmingham's move for the Ajax striker Chuba Akpom? Because this seems to change every minute.
Yeah, well, the Premier League might have this battle for Sesko, but in the Championship, there has been this intriguing battle for Chuba Akpom. Now, Birmingham City thought he was theirs. They do have a space in their forward lineup because of the sale of Alfie May to Huddersfield. So they thought Akpom was the man to fill that gap in their squad, and in swooped Ipswich Town at the last minute. They came in with this offer of a loan deal with a view to a £7 million move should they get promotion to the Premier League. So Akpom went there, had his medical. Birmingham City weren't giving up the fight. They put in a renewed bid, a £6 million bid. But because it was a permanent deal, Ajax were thought to be sort of more favourable to that, but it seems that Akpon's heart was then with Ipswich Town. So it is our understanding now that Birmingham City have withdrawn from that battle, and they do still need to bring in a forward, and they have very much now turned their attention elsewhere.
Right, OK, so it now doesn't look like Akpom is heading to St Andrews, but what other forward targets do they have?
Well, Marvin Duksch is a forward that they've actually been looking at previously. They've had interest in him previously. He's at Werder Bremen right now. And they've very much turned their attention back to him. Chris Davis, the manager here, there's been a couple of things that he's wanted to bring in this summer in terms of the players he's been bringing in. He's wanted to add experience and he's wanted to add pace as well. And Duksch very much fits that profile. He's 6'2", but certainly very mobile. He can play as a 9 or a 10. He likes to drift back and get involved with play. He scored 8 goals in 32 games last season, but had 8 assists as well. So, yeah, likes to sort of is involved either in getting the ball into the net or just generally involved with play in terms of that. So, very much the man they have now turned their attention to. Watch this space with him. I will be speaking to Chris Davis this afternoon, and I will ask him certainly to see how far along the lines they are in terms of trying to bring him to the club. He's also looking to try and bring in a left back as well, an extra left back to his squad. So yeah, we'll be speaking to Chris Davis because, of course, while a battle has been raging between Birmingham and Ipswich off the pitch this week, they are getting ready to do battle on the pitch on Friday night. It is the start of the Championship season. I think all of this with Akpom is just going to add extra spice, isn't it, to that game? A game you can see live on Sky Sports on Friday evening, and you can hear from Chris Davis after 3 o'clock this afternoon here on Sky Sports News.
Yeah, exciting times for Birmingham fans regardless of that Akpom news. Kirsty, thank you. Right, we've got another update on a striker, and it goes back to Alexander Isak. OK, little update on his future right now. There's just come in seconds ago. Alexander Isak will train away from Newcastle United's main group today. He's been told to report in the late afternoon to train / recover on his own. Remember, he has officially got an injury. The players and staff, they've got a team bonding session that Keith was telling us about. That's this afternoon with families invited. Isach has been told to report to the training ground after they have left. Remember that Eddie Howe's quotes, he said that you've got to earn the right to train with the squad. And that was when Alexander Isak was pushing for a move away. He has been told to train away from the main group. He's going to be coming in after that team bonding gathering, or family fun day, I suppose you could call it. Without wanting to make it sound too much like Phoenix Nights there, of course. But, you know, he's going to be training away from that. And he's clearly not invited to it either, right? Michael's laughing too much to answer a question on this, but it doesn't sound great for Isak, does it?
No, not at all. Look, but as Eddie Howe said the other day at the post-match press conference against Spurs in South Korea, you got to earn the right just to come back into the squad, a proud squad, a squad he's inherited, not inherited, sorry, a squad with players he's brought in. Let's remember, Newcastle have recruited extremely well, so it's an interesting next few days for him back at Newcastle.
Yeah, OK, what about Tottenham then? Let's talk about that. HeungMin Son looks like he is going. When can we expect confirmation?
Expecting confirmation later this evening. LAFC have called a press conference. I wonder what that will be. But he was in attendance last night, overnight for us in the UK, in an MLS, watching his new side. I saw his name down there as LAFC striker Son. I don't think they've jumped the gun, to be honest with you. But as we reported yesterday, negotiations are pretty much finalised now. Look, we know he wanted to go there. Then after that, it was just Tottenham and LAFC negotiating the deal, and the final negotiations will see him move for over £20 million. And that final figure, I'm told, will be an MLS record. And I'm telling you now, Tom, it goes with everyone's best wishes at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. A club legend, certainly. In terms of other outgoings from Thomas Frank's Tottenham, who else could go?
Well, he's watching us there, so I've got to be careful what I say, Tom. Yeah, look, I think...
Be accurate.
Yeah, always. Look, I think Yves Bissouma would be available if an offer came in. He's in the final year of his contract. We reported earlier this week that a number of younger players will go out on loan. Jamie Donnelly joined Stoke around half an hour ago. That was confirmed. Mikey Moore, of course, going to Rangers. That's a great loan for him, I think. In terms of senior players, look, Richarlison, in terms of the contract, if an offer came in, Spurs might consider. But apart from that, I think Spurs needs a few more in. I really like the João Paulinho signing. I think that's a great signing. I think the difference between this season, maybe last season, Lucas Berger, Archie Gray, sort of youngsters coming in. This season, Spurs needed a lot more. But I think when they play Burnley on the first day of the season, Mo Kudus and Paulinho will probably start. They need players to start. They need that experience this season, especially with Champions League football.
But you did say there that they're not finished when it comes to incomings. What else do they need in terms of positions?
I think they'll be looking... Well, I know they're looking at a 10, because we know that Morgan Gibbs-White was close, and then obviously that transfer didn't go through in the end. Let's go through that really quickly. Kevin Danso, signed in January, made permanent, defender, really good signing. Luka Vuskovic, he's going to be absolutely brilliant. He's only 17, but I think he'll go out on loan. He'll get a good European loan, I reckon. Matisse Tell, that loan was made permanent. The January signing on loan, that's been made permanent. Kota Takai will stay with the first team, I think. He's currently got an injury, Japanese international. Mo Kudus I spoke about, and João Paulinho I think is going to be a really good signing. That's someone who Thomas Frank really wanted. So I think a number 10, that's going to be heightened now because of James Maddison's knee injury. We don't have news on that yet. There's no news that just yet, but it doesn't look good.
Right. OK. Still to come on Transfer Talk, we'll be taking a look at some of the teams in the Premier League that need to do a little bit more business, including Crystal Palace and West Ham. Mark Guew is currently at Sunderland having a medical. The Spanish forward has agreed a season-long loan deal from Chelsea.
At my end of last season, fantastic, and the way he stepped forward towards the end of the season, massive contribution for us getting back to the Premier League. And obviously Wilson Isidore, but two young forwards, neither have got experience at Premier League level. So yeah, getting the boy in from Chelsea will be a great addition. But I think maybe go and get another one who's got a little bit of experience, sort of between 25 to 30, whether it's Premiership or top leagues in Europe. So I'm sure they're looking at that as well. Centre backs as well. At this moment in time, there's only Dan Ballard really, who's a regular centre back who's fit. Luke O'Nine's injured. Jensen Sealt's come in pre-season. He's had a couple of good run-outs, but he's had injury problems as well. Chris Mettam obviously returned to Bournemouth in the summer. So I think they need a good experienced centre-back or maybe another one as well to come into the squad. So for, 8 signings we've made, I still think we need 3 to 4 and maybe another winger or two as well.
Yeah, so Sunderland still could be busy despite already having 8, soon to be 9, through the door. Who else needs to be busy though, Michael? We've picked out a couple of clubs, haven't we? Starting with Crystal Palace.
Yeah, so much has been made, and I think overshadowing's a bit extreme, but like with everything going on in what European competition they're going to be in, I hope it doesn't overshadow just what an amazing achievement it was winning the FA Cup last season. But we spoke to Oliver Glasner, didn't we, yesterday? He's ultra ambitious. He wants more players in. But I think it's important in terms of what players would he potentially lose as well. There's no movement on Mark Gay. He come into the last year of his contract. Ebiezi, this clause, whether it's expired, but a lot will depend on them. And sometimes keeping your players is just as, and sometimes more important than who you bring in. But I'm sure Oliver Glasner will want to bring in more than what he's got so far.
Yeah, I mean, Eze and Mark Gay obviously worth a lot of money, but they'll be very keen to keep them regardless. What about West Ham? Because they've lost a few as well.
Yeah, I'm not being funny. I mean, I don't think West Ham fans like seeing Mo Kudus go to Spurs. That's gonna hurt them a lot. So I'm sure. Look, Graham Potter needs to rejig the squad, bring people in he wants to bring in. They've made a few signings so far, but our understanding is they're looking at a couple of midfielders as well, which we can understand. I think they've looked pretty good actually on pre-season tour. I know you can't take a lot out of pre-season. It is only pre-season, but you've got that Mr. Reliable there, Jarrod Bowen. He's been absolutely incredible. One of West Ham's best signings, Jarrod Bowen, but of course they'll need a lot more to push on as well. Yeah,
I'm just looking at the players that they've lost. They've lost a lot of experience, players who were released at the end of their contracts. Aaron Cresswell, Lucas Fabianski, Vladimir Soufal, Danny Ings. Kurt Zouma went as well for free. And like you say, there was that money that came in for Mohamed Kudus. And they've made that loan from Jean-Claire Todibo permanent. It does look like it's a bit of a rebuild. But the one that stands out is Kyle Walker-Peters, who they nicked at the last minute for free, but it does seem like a rebuild, doesn't it, when you lose all of that experience?
But this time last year we were saying about West Ham potentially winning the transfer window because they're bringing in so many players, but some of them haven't worked out. Julian Lopetegui turned out wasn't the right guy to take them forward after David Moyes. Now it's Graham Potter, but I spoke to him at the end of the season, interviewed him, and he was really keen for he was looking forward to pre-season. But look, we talk about Aston Villa. Obviously they're going to looking to bring someone in now. But there's some teams who still haven't done much yet, which makes me think that we are in for a really, really busy next few weeks transfers-wise.
Yeah, we are. And we expect those two clubs, Palace and West Ham, to be busy, like you've said. In terms of who's done the best business so far, to me, there's two clubs that really stand out, and one of them is Arsenal.
Yeah, you'd say that there's obviously interest in Ebiezi. And that's a huge if, I don't want to upset Palace fans, but if they brought him in, I think that completes their window. Because last season they didn't get a striker in. They've done that this time in Gyökeres. They've got the backup keeper in Kepa. Madueke, OK, that's got a mixed reaction from the Arsenal supporters, but that's who Mikel Arteta wants. Mosquera's come in from Valencia defender. Norgard's come in to replace the experience in Jorginho. Zubamendi's a class player. That's a great signing. So it looks like they're probably one away from completion. And then obviously we're going to talk about Liverpool throughout over the next few weeks. They've spent a lot of money, but they'll come back and tell us, well, we're bringing in some money as well. And Diaz was an expensive sale to Bayern Munich. So really intriguing, the clubs. I think Liverpool looking to retain the title.
Yes, so I mean, you've brought us on to Liverpool there. You are right. when people talk about how much they've spent, I mean, Alexander-Arnold, in the end, they got £10 million, which was £10 million more than they would have got if it had gone on for an extra month. Queven Kelleher, just under £20 million. Jarell Quansah, £35 million. You've talked about Luis Diaz, 65. Tyler Morton, £15 million as well. That one's kind of gone under the radar a little bit for Nat Phillips as well. And we now know that Darwin Nunez is going too. So, yes, they're spending a lot of money, but they seem to be spending it wisely. Kirkes, Weerts for mega money. Frimpong, Mohamedashvili, I think was agreed last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ekitike as well, and potentially Isak. So Liverpool not only improving their squad, but also bringing in funds to kind of get a bit more self-sufficient.
Yeah, and interestingly, our mate Jamie Carragher's not totally convinced with what they're doing transfer-wise at the moment, which I find very interesting indeed. And look, Liverpool were absolutely brilliant last season. And it was kind of unfair when you heard he did it with Jurgen Klopp's team. I think that was really unfair on Arne Slot. But make no mistake, next season, big money they've spent, and it's Arne Slot's team.
Right, OK, we've got one thing to pretty much end the show on, like we did this morning, because it's an interesting one. The former England winger Andros Townsend has joined a Thai club, Kanchanaburi Power. It's the 16th club that he's played for. 13-time England international. He's 34 years old. He joins the club who were promoted to the Thai top division last season. Just a quick one, Michael. I know you've seen him a lot for various clubs, and brilliant player. Why not do something completely different?
Oh, good luck to him. Yeah, he's great guy as well. I mean, sure, when he hangs up his boots, he'll go into punditry. He's already a great co-commentator, but there's still life in those legs yet, Tom.
Absolutely, out in Thailand as well. I'm sure it'll be a lovely life out there for as long as he is there. Right, let's just then just recap on the big breaking news we've had regarding strikers over the last hour. Liverpool have reached an agreement with Al Hilal for the sale of Darwin Nunez. We understand the Saudi Pro League club are set to pay a fixed fee of £46.2 million, but the add-ons could take that deal to £56.6 million. Sky in Italy reported that Al Hilal have accepted Nunez's wage demands. AC Milan were interested, but they were never going to get to those figures. And just a quick one on Alexander Isak. We understand he has been told to train away from the Newcastle United main group today. The Newcastle squad are having a team bonding session with their families at the club. Isaac has been told to report to training after everybody's left to train/recover on his own. And Isaac there, so still he was told by Eddie Howe he'd have to earn the right to train back in with the club, with the squad, and that is true. Right, Good Morning Transfers is back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Transfer Talk returns from midday, and a reminder, it's not all done yet. Full roundup, Transfer Show, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.